We are living during a critical time on this earth, and we're witnessing how important our connection is to our bodies and our spirits, our planet, and one another.
And we're recognizing that to stand in our truth means honoring the full spectrum of our emotional human experience.
We're seeking answers in all the stories and medicine that will support us and guide us as we create the safety we need to face our fears and to feel our feels.
And we cannot do this alone. Community, connection, and compassion are at the heart of our collective healing.
I'm Ellen, a breathwork and medicine companion and creator of Trip with Ellen.
And I'm Sam, an integrative energy therapist and creator of Involution Healing. Welcome. Journey with us.
This is Woo New.
Today we are deeply honored to be speaking with Inez Singletary, who is an astrologer who is versed in Qabalah and Tarot, and she is also the author of Making What Your Means Can't Buy, a treatise on resourcefully living a life that gives you life. And also shout out to our dear friend TanyaMarck for connecting us so that we can all be together in magic today, especially as we're coming up on the Scorpio Lunar Eclipse. So welcome, Inez. Thank you so much for being here. We are so excited to connect with you.
Thank you. Thank you. I am equally excited.
Yeah.
Feels very divine timing to be sitting here with you today. And
Yes.
Also looking at these beautiful charts that you are going to be supporting us in and kind of explaining what's going on this week.
Amazing. And so with that, we'd love to hear a little bit about your work with astrology and sort of how you apply your magic to reading charts. And then maybe we can dive into our Ellen and I's charts for the lunar eclipse to illuminate some of the energies we're going to be working with.
Okay. Yes, I got into astrology when I was a young woman, and it seems amazing to say that. So 40 years or so has gone by since I first, actually it's like 44 years since I started my interest in astrology, which happened when my sister had a reading. I listened to her cassette tape in those days, and I was like amazed. Like, how could she say that much about you? So of course I had to do it, and I did. And I was amazed that she had so much to say about me. And my favorite thing to say about that reading was that my mother used to say, "I know you better than you know yourself." And I used to hate that. But I will tell you, this woman who didn't know me at all knew me better than I knew myself. And the result of that time with her, just like, I was like, well, she was looking at these symbols. They didn't mean nothing to me. And I thought, I gotta learn to do that. This is so fascinating. So shortly thereafter, I started studying with my sister, and I actually met my second husband, from whom I am since divorced, but I met him also in the astrology class.
Oh, wow.
And it's an immense blessing for me to have these two very important people, because he is still in my life, who understand this language, not only the language of astrology, but the language of Qabalah. And I feel like what Qabalah does is, because it's an ancient wisdom and it's tied into symbolism and it's tied into astrology, if you studied where I studied, because, there are hundreds of decks now. But this deck was definitely tied into astrology, and just you could just tell into this old but not out of date wisdom. And so that's, I've walked a certain walk, ever since then.
I love how closely I feel like you're surrounded, like your whole family
Yeah.
was, you know, like kind of supporting you in stepping into this path. Like
Hmm.
how
Yes.
amazing to have a sister, and your mother also was also,
My sister and my ex-husband.
and your ex-husband. Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow.
That's
Mhm.
so
Wow.
divine.
I
Mhm.
know. Very cool. And so were you already kind of reading for clients back then, or did it take a
Oh
while for you
no!
to?
Oh no! No, when I had my reading, I knew nothing about astrology.
Mm.
Except for the sun sign stuff. My mother was very interested in astrology, but only what she could glean from books. And
Mm.
she was interested, she said, because she had 5 children at the time. Eventually, we became 7. But at the time, she said, I have 5 children and they're all so different. What's up? And, you know, and that was her interest. And I remember she used to tell me, you're changeable as the sea. She would tell me that all the time.
Oh.
And I didn't really have perspective. I didn't really know what that meant, you know. But I know that it was something that she said, that she came to that conclusion, you know. And I will say also that from reading the sun sign stuff, even early on, even when I started studying, I had this feeling I am a Pisces.
Mm.
And sometimes there's some little negative thing they say about some of the signs, and people don't want to tell you their sign because they think you know that thing, or you believe that thing. And people used to accuse me or accuse Pisces of being dreamers.
Uh-huh.
Mm.
And I would say, I'm not a dreamer. Like, don't tell me I'm not grounded. But I came to understand that I was a dreamer and I should be a dreamer, you know, that there
Yeah.
was nothing inherently bad about being a dreamer. And if I didn't own being a dreamer, that wasn't going to bode well for me either, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Mm. I love that so much.
yes.
Like, there's a lot of wisdom in knowing what is aligned for you, and for it
Hmm.
to be something so beautiful as like being considered a dreamer.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so, if you let astrology have the opportunity, it can make you very non-biased. But
Mm.
it, like everything, like it sometimes gets corrupted, and
Right.
especially like early when people don't really know what they're doing. They might want to come to some hard and fast conclusions, about your different presentations. But I love astrology really for growth of the self. That's my favorite use for it. That's what I use it for almost every day of my life. Or I'll say every day of my life, because I always have
Mm.
some awareness of where the planets are. So I am very keen to seeing what it is I need to see today. And when I have, when a person has an event in their lives, it's always reflected by the chart. Always, especially a big thing, you know?
Inez, you said
Yes.
something that I kind of wanted to like just slow down and bring us back to, because I think it's actually really important,
Okay.
especially today, because today is like the Pluto's in retrograde. I think it's just started today, and
Okay.
I've been thinking about power a lot, just even
Mm-hmm.
this morning, and what you
Mm.
just said about how um, astrology can be used, from what I'm hearing, and I'm going to paraphrase, but it sounds like, like everything, it could be used to sort of, how do I even say this? It's almost like you could give your power away to astrology if you're not careful,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm.
And I think
Mm-hmm.
it's such an important point, because I think that's, at least for me, it really stuck out. Because I feel like I myself have, like, as I was studying it for a little bit, there was a
Mm-hmm.
moment where I felt like it almost felt like it was taking over my life. Like I was
Mm.
trying
There's so
so
much there.
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I had to check the chart for everything, and it almost
Ah.
became like
Mm-hmm.
not intuitive living anymore. Like
Mm-hmm.
I had to just
Mm-hmm.
stare at my chart all the time, and I had to kind of like pull
Mm-hmm.
back from that. But I'm
Mm.
curious, like, how your relationship with it, like, that just seems to be like such an important point to make
Mm-hmm.
today.
Mm-hmm. That's an extremely important point. And even though I have the the information that uh, astrology can help me make a decision, let's say, you
Hmm.
know, um, but I never try to look at the chart and let the chart tell me the decision.
Mm.
Gotcha.
You
Yeah.
know, I'll look at where stuff is, what it might be leading to, but but I don't say, oh well, because the sun is there doing that, then I got to do that. I don't do
Right.
that at all. I go by my, okay, so what, now I've looked at all this, but how do I feel?
Yeah.
Wow.
So someone will tell me, oh, you should be doing a little more of this because look at that, look at that house, and I'm like, yeah, but I'm not being called. I don't feel called to that. So I'm not
Right.
going to go, oh, I got to find groups because my 11th house is full. I
Mm.
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. That's a very
I had,
empowered distinction.
yeah. So no, you can't let it, and you can't let. I try not to do it with when I'm reading for someone, and they're asking me, what should I do? I try to not make that decision for them. I give them the information, and I let them know this is not my decision. This is not your decision. And if I get a little strong, which I can, one of my early lessons with astrology was to um, to not pound on people, especially like family members that you feel like what I mean. You're young in it anyway. You don't know what you're doing, but you think they should. I remember thinking my sister should not come back to California to the boyfriend she left, and being like, oh my God, bang on the table, strong about it.
Mm.
But I will tell you what happened. I went to bed for 3 days after I read for my youngest sister. I put out so much energy.
Mm.
I literally had to go to bed. I couldn't hardly get up for 3 days.
Wow.
But that was like lesson learned. It's like, this is not your job
Mm.
to
Mhm.
pound stuff into people's heads. You let them make their own decision. They can't make it because you said so.
Right.
Right.
But you have to learn those things.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's very, very, very important that you do not give your power away because it doesn't, you end up having so much to look at, right, Ellen?
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know,
I mean,
I mean,
it's
it's
never
like,
ending.
it's never ending. So you can't, you can't let that be your final intellectual decision. And you said it that, where was your intuition?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you
You
so
know?
much for saying that. Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
because I think especially when you have things like Mercury in retrograde, which I know is retrograding right now, there's a tendency, I feel like, for those of us who follow astrology so closely to literally like drop everything and just
Hmm.
become not
Right.
like inactive, you know, during
Right.
Mercury. Like
Right.
you're so afraid to do anything, and it's that's
Right.
not meant to be that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not meant to be that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't pull out of things. I didn't say to you, oh, Mercury's gonna be retrograde. We can't do it then. You know.
Which is
Um,
like so much of the year.
yeah, I mean, it's twice a year for 3 weeks at a time. And, if you've ever been, in a business setting, you know that they don't pay attention to Mercury retrograde. They sign documents. They,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? They send letters. They make telephone calls. So what I kind of do is, I guess again, kind of take the temperature of the thing, and I know I don't want to drop everything because Mercury's retrograde, but like I probably wouldn't buy a car during Mercury retrograde.
Like
I
big
wouldn't,
decisions.
I wouldn't sign a lease on a house with a Mercury
Gotcha.
retrograde. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? But,
Yeah.
like, I'll have my printer repaired if it needs to be repaired. Or, there's just a lot of kind of little things, and that sometimes the retrograde is an opportunity. It's like, oh
Hmm.
yeah, that thing I've been putting off, like I've been putting off a project.
Hmm.
And when I kind of got back going on it, it was very close to the retrograde. Well, I kept on working, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and now I've gotten to, kind of a finished place with it. And I just won't send it until Mercury is direct, you know.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But you
Yeah.
have to, like, you got to do it on a case by case, and just, you just have the outline, if it's really, really, really serious, you don't do it. But one of my favorite stories is that I was a Mary Kay person for a while.
Uh-huh.
And,
Mm.
and she started her business on Friday the 13th under a Mercury retrograde.
I love
Now,
it.
she knew it was Friday the 13th, and she poo-pooed that. She's
Uh-huh.
like, I'm not gonna let that stop me. But she, of course, didn't know astrology, so she didn't know Mercury was retrograde. But when I look at that, I'm like, wait a minute, and this is a multi-million-dollar business that has made many, many women wealthy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was very successful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things I love about being able to talk to you right now, Inez, is the fact that you've had many, many years under your belt doing this kind of work. And
Hmm.
I don't know if I've like been able to have the honor of talking to another astrologer who has been walking with this for, did you say like 40 years?
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so
And
unique.
it's so, I mean, it's like you have the benefit of your years to
Yes.
have
So
been
much
with the
wisdom.
stars. Yeah. And
Yes.
like seen the patterns and live the you know, and like
Yeah.
there's,
Testing this, going, okay, is this true? And it's like,
right.
oh yeah. Like, don't don't do it says don't do surgery on the part of the body um that the moon might be in. So for example, I had root canal on a day when the moon was in Cancer, and Cancer rules the gums.
Oh.
And I thought,
Oh.
well, let's see. Well,
Oh.
let me tell you something. I will never, ever have dental work done when the moon is in Cancer. I mean, it came,
Whoa.
it came out all right, but it was grueling.
Oh.
It was grueling. It was like he couldn't get the tooth out, and my
Oh.
mouth was all stretched. It was awful.
Oh my
So I thought,
gosh.
okay, that's good, and so I would extend that out. So, if someone's asking me about a surgery and they got it scheduled for the moon in Scorpio and it's, has to do with their reproductive system, I'm going to say, maybe not that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So each of the signs track to a certain part of the body.
Yes. Yes, they do.
Wow, that's a whole
Yeah,
new
that's a whole nother
facet.
layer I was not even aware of.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. Oh yeah. Oh, astrology is infinite. Your chart is infinite. Like I wouldn't. I mean, I know my chart, but I don't know my chart. You know what I mean? It could, on any given day, yield something that surprises me. Another level of information that I could not have known before. Because I needed this touch in this. So shall we talk about the eclipse a little bit?
Yeah,
Yes, yes, let's
please.
get into it.
So, in general, um, an eclipse happens because there's a path that the sun takes, and there's a path that the moon takes, and they're on different elliptics. They have like a sort of different course if we trace the lines around, but at a certain point, they intersect each other. The two paths intersect. So the path, one part is called the North Node, and in ancient times they called it the dragon's head, and I think that's a useful thing to observe about the North Node. And then on always 180 degrees on the other side, there's the South Node. So the sun and moon paths are always crossing. When an eclipse happens, the sun and the moon are near one or both of those nodes.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
I see. Okay.
So, and what that says to me is that sort of like, I feel like the nodes are sort of like telling you a story, and they're saying, focus on this now, focus on this. So the North Node is in Taurus right now, the transiting North Node.
Mhm.
And that means that the South Node is in Scorpio.
Mhm.
So the general teaching, and you will find some deviation, people say other things, but what I have observed is that the North Node says, go this way. And the South Node says, I'm used to this way. And the North Node is like saying, but if you want to grow, don't do your South Node. So, for example, uh, Ellen has a South Node in Taurus
Mhm.
and a North Node in Scorpio. So, South Node in Taurus, we might say, you're pretty good with money. You've had maybe, you might have had experiences. Chiron is close by. So, you might have had certain things sort of go wrong financially, and especially if it had to do with friends. But you're okay, and maybe you're like really financially oriented. Maybe you say, "What's in it for me?" all the time. This has got to be worth my while. And the North Node says, like this. That's okay. It's not wrong for you to do your South Node thing. It's just too easy. So you need to do that North Node thing. You need to sometimes say, how can I give? How can I share? How can I be more trusting? How can I handle surprises? Because you have the North Node conjunct Uranus in Scorpio. So there's like you may not want, you're like, oh, no, I want money in the bank. No surprises. You know what I mean? Like, I want to
Right,
know. I got a job. I want to know. I got the money. I want to know, all of that, you know? And so the North Node says, no, sometimes, like, don't count on the money in the bank. Don't count on what you have. Don't count on all your ducks in a row. Sometimes reach out and stretch out and maybe bring somebody else into your confidence. Now we we have this odd situation. It's not odd really, it happens, but now the North Node is in Taurus.
Yeah.
So you have the North Node on your South Node.
Right.
And the South Node on your North Node. So now the instruction kind of is, and maybe it's probably going along with some timing. Like you mentioned, intuition. For me, Taurus is intuition. Not just money, but a lot of it is intuition. Yeah. And you mentioned that. It says, okay, right now, even though usually we wouldn't want you to really count on the tangibles, at this time you probably should be more on the tangibles. And it's subtle. It can be like, a little push pull.
Definitely.
And another thing is that Saturn is squaring your nodes right now. But the thing I love about astrology is how the planets will do that timing thing, and it's like, because when I looked at both these charts, I was like, well, my God, like this was meant to be, because the eclipses are highlighting the chart so much,
Wow.
So Ellen, I would say also then that in terms of Saturn squaring the nodes, like this, you must recognize this kind of struggle a little bit, like it's all about the resources and what's important and what's valuable, and then having some insecurities around the topic. And that would be based on Saturn. Yes?
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's so resonant. Like, it's like you've been listening to our conversations.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Okay, so Sam, yours is fascinating because the South Node for the eclipse will be at 4 degrees of Scorpio, and your birth Pluto is 4 degrees of Scorpio. So that's an exact conjunction. So for everyone, the North Node in Taurus is saying, be solid. Be honest in your financial dealings or with anything where you have to demonstrate your value. To me, the South Node in Scorpio, one thing that I pick up that I think is pointing to that South Node is that we're a little bit trauma oriented these days. I think a little bit too much so. Because it's like we're saying, well, I've had this trauma, and therefore my life is marked and it's scarred, and I have no power. Like Sam, you could say that, you could feel that, you could feel like, I'm my power, I don't have, and I'm remembering my trauma. You might be remembering it, and it's somewhat behind the scenes, so it's not all clear to you maybe. But the North Node says, yeah, I mean, kisses and hugs, but like don't give your power away.
Mm-hmm.
See, I think that maybe that sums up South Node is like, don't give your power away. Don't get too wrapped up in your trauma that you can't go on, you know?
Right.
Or, you say like, and I started writing about this because I write a new moon and full moon column. And right now my angle, it could change because it's 3 or 4 days away. But right now I'm thinking, yeah, my ancestors don't want me to say to them, listen, I'm behind the eighth ball because you were slaves. Because I feel like they'd be saying like, yeah, but that was a long time ago, and we would rather you overcome. We would rather you think we already paid the price.
Right.
Don't blame us and keep yourself handicapped, and don't keep saying the man, the society. Don't blame. I'd say in general, people, South Node in Scorpio says if you're blaming, if you're depressed, and again, I'm not saying depressed isn't a valid place to be, but if you're depressed, you're doing your South Node. If you're blaming, you're doing the South Node.
Gotcha.
If you want to do the North Node, then say, I have the resources. Whether I see them or not, because sometimes that, we get metaphysical, so sometimes you got to say things that are good that don't seem to be true, but they're better than saying the things that are bad all the time.
Right.
So you got to say, so let's say back to Sam's chart, then, So let me say, do you feel like you understand or can you relate to saying, yeah, I might be dealing with past trauma?
Yeah, it's really interesting actually. Because I was thinking about this exact thing this morning. Like, I'm moving through a lot of childhood stuff right now, just for healing and growth. But the thing that caught my attention this morning that I was reflecting on is that I don't feel hindered by it, or it's almost like I don't feel like I'm in the depths of the like emotions of it, that it's
Okay.
like, it's almost like I can examine it and like be with it in a different way.
Yes, that's very good. Yeah. And I would say to people in general, if you want to know which node you're doing, I'll say, in general, if you feel good, you're good. But if you are weeping and moaning over much, if you are blaming others, if you're hung up, if you're mad, furious, then you might be doing, a little more of your South Node, and that blaming others is giving the power away. And if you lean on yourself, the North Node, because the Taurus is about personal money, and Scorpio is kind of about joint money.
Oh, interesting. Oh, that's why the taxes in the Scorpio side.
Okay, and like, yeah, that's a good example. Actually, it's like, while we're in that South Node in Scorpio, we might be mad about the money we gotta pay, and the inequity of the system. Sam, you got the North Node in the 6th of work, and the South Node and Pluto kind of behind the scenes in the 12th. We sort of, we think of the 12th house as kind of unconscious. So you might have some unconscious things about money going on, but you know, if you can recognize that trauma has a role in your story right now, then, you know, I'd say it's not terribly unconscious, you know, because the universe has got us. The first thing that I heard when I went to my first tarot class, which I thought was an astrology class, I wasn't trying to go to a tarot class. I thought this was an astrology class. Well, because they mentioned astrology, but they were really trying to say it's associated with the tarot, but I didn't know that. So I go to this class, and one of the first things that changes my life is that the man says, there is order in the universe, even if it doesn't seem like it.
Yeah.
And so that means, you know, that when life gets a little hard and crazy, I don't jump in the, you know, I don't jump off the roof, you know, because I say there's order to it. It may not feel pleasant. I might be scared, you know, but if I remember there's order, we're going to come back around to order, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so this time of taxes is a good time to bring our South Node issues up and to make us feel like other people are in power. They set the prices, you know, the food prices are going up. Somebody else is setting them. Damn them, you know, kind of might be our orientation, you know, or, you know, it's very popular for people to be down on people with money. And one of my teachers says, well, you know, if you're down on people with money, you're really keeping yourself from money because you're saying those people are bad people. I'm never going to be bad.
Right.
So I'm going to stay financially challenged.
Yeah.
You know? And I don't want them to, you know, I don't want them to hate me because I can have the best of everything, you know? So I'm going to kind of, you know, do that on the down low or whatever, you know? But yeah, this is a good time that our kind of South Node blame them, be exacerbated, be emotionally upset, and even depressed. You know, that can be, I call that default mode, right? It's like that's the easiest way to go, you know? But if you say, you know what? I can make what I need. I can have what I need. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, you know. I have the talent and the resources that are necessary for my growth. And nobody else is, you know, in my way. I'm not gonna judge people in my way. I'm gonna say I can do it.
Right.
And then I'm leaning toward my North Node.
It's so interesting the way you're expressing this. I'm so grateful to be having this conversation right now because we have this Scorpio eclipse on Friday, and we just came off the heels of this Aries eclipse a few weeks ago, where I feel like pervasively the people I was talking to and clients I was working with, there was so much anger that we were working through collectively.
Yeah, I was noticing that too.
Right? And Inez, the way you're talking about the South Node, like sort of the blaming and the being stuck in your trauma, and you know, I almost feel like, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like this particular eclipse portal has been a lot about ancestral trauma, like healing. and really, it's not to say that, other times haven't been about that, but I feel like
Mm-hmm.
it almost feels like a laser focus on ancestral trauma and like
Mm-hmm.
healing from that. Is that kind
Right.
of been what your experience is just looking at the charts?
Yes, I would say that. And I would also say again that the ancestors don't want us making their trauma our excuse
Right.
to be held back. They're like, look, if I've suffered enough. The family has suffered enough. You go forward.
Yeah.
Don't dwell on my trauma. Don't dwell on it. Because how do you feel when you start dwelling on stuff like that? You feel bad,
Exactly.
So don't dwell on that. Dwell on your own healing. But again, see, sometimes it's like an excuse. You know what I mean? It's like, well, it's not my fault and I have no work to do.
Yeah.
Because everything happened in the past, or it's somebody else's fault, and and that's it. And I'm broken.
Mm-hmm.
One of my I got to tell this story. I a, a a story that informed me a lot about trauma. And this isn't particularly ancestral, but the fighter Mike Tyson.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know that he went to jail for raping a young woman?
Yeah.
So one day
Wow.
I heard this woman on television say, he's only had to spend 4 years in jail, and I'll be living with this for the rest of my life. I will never get over this.
Mm.
And I said to myself, I said to her, talking to the TV probably, don't let him take the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't do that. If he's only done 4, then you max out your suffering at 4.
Yeah.
Yep.
But that's the kind of thing we do, especially with this, and this is a sexual issue, so that would be, Scorpio especially.
Right.
Um, that we want to kind of like stay locked up. And I just thought, oh my God, that was so, I have to thank her for that story because it was so illustrative, of that not being somewhere that we should go. No, no. You're going to make sure you suffer. See, he's not there.
Right.
You're going to make sure you never get better. That you always feel traumatized. You mean in 20 years you will not have gotten better? No. Don't give him the rest of your life.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. This is so like this. I feel like this conversation was so necessary
Yeah.
as we're
Yes.
moving into
So much is
this.
coming up right now. Absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And Sam, like do you have work issues? Well, you do have work issues. I think I'll just say that. Um, but like, are you at some kind of crossroads right now? Are you
Yeah.
thinking you need to get another job, or what's
I'm
going on?
definitely feeling like a bit of a crossroads. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So what is it about your job that's not good?
Well, it's okay. So that's an interesting thing. So I actually love my job.
Okay. Okay.
I love it a lot.
Okay.
But I am turning a little bit of a pivot to bring in. So I work with and cultivate the sacred mushrooms, and so
Mm-hmm.
I'm working on right now bringing that into a bigger part of stepping forward into the collective and my messaging and sort of where I am, but I have not done it yet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I I almost revised mid-sentence because when I was talking about your job, because I said I saw that the transiting north node is there. So it should, minimize it being bad or
Right.
hard. But there's a lot going on
Yeah.
for sure,
Yeah.
and you do, it's like you need to innovate. You need to maybe give a sort of different kind of service than you thought you would do.
Yeah.
And I think I would probably say to you, Pluto is going to go retrograde, and I think Pluto's got a lot to say about this. So like, let it be something you're sort of easy with for a while. You know what I mean? Like, just think about it, try stuff, reflect on things, and don't necessarily feel like you got to make a turnaround now.
Yeah. Gosh, I feel like you just, like, have been here with me for the last 3 weeks. You like described my experience to a T just right there.
Wow. And Ellen, let's see, you have all those Taurus in the 11th of groups.
Yeah.
But I think I want to ask you maybe about your love life. Is there something happening in terms of either your love life or your creative life?
My creative life, I would say, I guess my creative life is kind of, at least the way I put it, like synonymous with my work life.
Okay.
But what's interesting is I, my, there's like some things that are brewing on the horizon, and I'm about to put out my first breathwork album on the 10th. And I'm about to also participate in the Hay House Psychedelic Summit on the 15th. And so I feel like there's expansion kind of on the horizon. It's like I'm in this sort of expansion portal.
Okay.
And there's a lot of other little things, like even just talking to somebody who's going to help me with the organizational aspects of my business so that I can have like a firm foundation to build off of. That just happened today. So it feels like there's a lot of these like pieces are moving into place that will support me in this next like sort of expansion or push to build out my business and my practice.
Okay. What I see in your chart is that you have Uranus and the North Node conjunct. And so it seemed to say that, like you're a revolutionary, you're supposed to be, or you are inclined to defy uh, norms and expectations, and you always got a bright idea of your own.
Yeah. God, Elle, you're such a powerhouse. It's so cool.
Now,
so rad.
Now, and the South Node might say, or rather, let me see. Okay, so the North Node says be a revolutionary. The South Node, it might have you, it might be that you don't recognize your own talents and abilities.
Oh yeah, that's totally true.
Yeah.
The imposter syndrome, yeah.
Well, yeah. Did you say imposter syndrome?
Yeah.
So explain that to me.
I think I tend to question, like even now, I feel like today, like as we're talking right now, I feel like there's this wave of energy behind me that's pushing me into this next, just this next phase of who I'm meant to be as a psychedelic death doula and a medicine person. But
Mm,
there's always this like little
mm,
voice, this little nagging, kind of energy that's like, you are not
mm.
a death doula yet. You are not this yet. You're not, and like,
Uh,
and I feel like
uh-huh,
it really feels kind of like, two sides, two different voices telling me
uh-huh,
like,
uh-huh,
no, you already are, you're already acting in this way, and then the other voice is just like, no, you haven't proven it yet. So there's this
uh,
constant like internal battle going on.
okay, I get that. I get that. That's a good example. I think it fits the nodes in that Scorpio is about death.
Hmm.
Mm.
And so I'll say Uranus conjunct your North Node does make you a natural as a death doula.
Mm.
Wow.
Um, but again, but see, the transiting nodes are sort of flipping things around a little bit, right?
Right, right.
So, so I think the flip is, I think maybe the flip kind of agrees with you.
Oh, interesting.
I
Interesting.
think it says, yeah, like don't let don't be like pushed into this new identity.
Mm.
Don't, like, yeah, take your time,
Yeah.
like still like own it,
Yeah.
own it. And if you feel like, maybe not ready quite to take on this much, I'd rather consider that, I've learned enough to learn some more,
Oh, I like
Mm.
that.
you
Yeah, that's
know?
so good.
I
Mm-hmm.
love
Mm-hmm.
that.
So
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah, you're on target, and the timing is right, but
Mm.
also trust your sense of things, trust your sense of things,
Thank you for
right?
saying that. Yeah, there's something very validating about receiving that because I think I've realized, being in the psychedelic space and companioning people through medicine journeys, there was
Mm-hmm.
always, I think I'm finally getting over this, but there was always a part of me that was like, man, do I need to go back to school and get like a psychology degree to be a
Mm-hmm.
therapist, to validate myself and go that
Mm-hmm.
traditional route? And
Right,
every
right.
time I thought about that, it was always out of fear, right? Fear that somebody
Hmm.
wasn't going to
Yes.
take me
Oh, good.
seriously.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm like, actually, I don't want that at all. Like I in fact
Mm-hmm.
feel like a traditional education would hold me back. And
Mm-hmm.
instead, I feel like there's a it's almost kind of like I'm letting the medicine teach me directly how they want
Yes.
to
Yeah.
work with me versus
Yes.
trying to learn from a human or trying to learn from,
Yes.
yeah, like the traditional, medical or Western medical
Yes.
kind of thing. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. 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 The Saturn square sums it up, because you have Saturn in Leo,
Mm-hmm.
and Saturn is our traditional planet. And sometimes it does operate like you're not enough. But I think what you just said is perfect. It's true. That like you can't let uh, 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 not that you can't, but that you don't need to have somebody else validate you.
Right.
And
Right.
in fact, that might really be a stumbling block instead of a stepping
Mm.
stone,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know? So right now, the universe is going like, yeah, trust your intuition.
Mm.
Trust that you can teach yourself. Trust that this is a new area for everybody,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
Mm.
know? For your teachers too, you know?
Right.
So yeah, you always be the one. You're the one. You're in charge,
Mm.
and you're very creative, and you're very intuitive. Like we could say that the South Node in Taurus says you're just intuitive, and that in the past it's like, okay, don't rely on your own intuition too much. But now that the nodes are flipped, they're like, rely on your own intuition.
Yeah. Oh, I
Yes.
like that. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's rad.
That feels really validating.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow,
Very
thank you.
cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you're both at, quite marvelous turning points, and I can hear your inner wisdom, and it's the kind of thing that a person needs if they're going to, validate their own lives and listen to themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and do the work the way I like to do the work, which is with an emphasis on the internal, what's up to me, I have my own teacher,
I like
and
that.
Yeah, I
that's
love
the
that.
teacher I have to listen to.
Yeah.
That's powerful right now.
Yeah. So powerful. Wow. Thank you so much, Inez. This was again, such a nourishing and needed conversation this week.
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome.
We can't thank
Welcome.
you enough. Yeah. How do you typically work with people? Do you do readings, or do you also it sounds like you're also a teacher and you kind of guide people, mentoring them through astrology?
Yes, when I can, I will, take, sometimes I do private, sometimes I do classes. Teaching is my favorite thing. So I love to do that. But also in terms of, how as I say, how I make my money, it is working with people, one-on-one. So I do readings for people. And sometimes it's a one-time reading. And sometimes when people have, big life changes, some changes take 2-3 years for us to make. And they're sort of confounding, And in that case, then I work with some people on a monthly basis or on whatever we decide is the time. Like there's somebody I work with quarterly right now. So every 3 months I'll do a reading for her. And there are other people who I work with every month,
Oh,
and
that's
again,
very cool.
yeah, and then there are people, so like when the person comes to me, we can sort of assess, they have that one time reading, and then they can, say, like if it comes up, we can kind of tell, okay, well, this is a lot, and maybe you would benefit, from another session, and we take it, a session at a time. So like maybe they'll just do the next session and then we'll see from there, you know. And then some people, sometimes, it's like it's just enjoyable to have somebody walking your path with
Yeah.
you, know,
Yeah.
and kind of letting you know, like I have to work with my chart all the time. It's like, okay, what's happening for the new moon? What's happening for the full moon? There's a different set of things that are necessary. And so it can be very nice also just to have somebody kind of walk with you for a little while and, and let the, sort of, let the lights turn on, along the way.
Yeah. I love that. And it
Yeah,
just
that's
speaks so much to the fact that I feel like witnessing, having somebody companion you through it just has become such a um to me like more and more important, and just
yeah.
the power of that has become just more and more
Mm.
apparent to me too, that you just I don't know, you just grow so fast when you're walking with somebody, somebody like you who's
Yes.
so seasoned and knows, how to just even hold that space for somebody to see themselves a little bit more clearly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's a
Mhm.
wealth of wisdom and growth there. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah. Thank you so much again. This has just been such a
Yeah.
beautiful
Oh, thank you.
conversation.
Yeah.
I'm smiling.
Us too.
Same.
And
Yeah.
Inez, where can people learn more about you and your work in case they would like to
Oh,
work with
thank
you?
you.
And we'll have
Yeah.
this link in the show notes as well.
Okay. Yes, it's www.manymoonsastrology.com.
Amazing. So incredible. This was such a gift. I can't even tell you.
Oh, I'm happy. Yeah, I knew when I looked at these charts, I was like, well, as one of my clients said recently, which, when I sent her chart, and she looked at all the colors I had on it, because I stuck to one, just the closest things to the eclipse for these charts. But they can get very colorful. She said, "Good night, nurse."
I
So
love
I can
that.
almost say that looking at these charts, I'm like, what? South Node exactly on Pluto? Good night, nurse. What timing? What timing we're working on here?
Yeah.
Wow. Such a gift.
Yeah. Thank you once again.
Awesome. You're welcome. Thank you.
Music for Woo New is composed by Adam Miller.